Now we will, in the previous class we have seen the factors which are needed for the process of germination. Now we will, and we have performed 3 different experiments, also 4 different experiments to show that the factors which are needed, which are actually needed for the process of germination. The factors are water, oxygen and optimum temperature. Fine. Now we will see what are the processes, the types of germination. Basically germination can be divided in, there are 2 types, rather we will see a 3rd type, but according to the elongation of hypocotyle and epicotyle, on the basis of that there are 2 types of germination. So what are the 2 types of germination? The 2 types of germinations are epigeal germination and hypogeal germination. Now what is the meaning of epi? As I have already told you above, geal term has come from geo, that was earth. Is it all right? So above, the germination occurs above the earth, above the soil rather. Is it all right? And here it is below the soil. Here the germination occurs below the soil. Now what happens, you see, I told you na, that there are, when you are seeing a cotyledon and you will find that there is embryo. We are coming back to it again. This is the embryonic axis. So here I show it like this. All right. So the part below the embryonic axis is hypocotyle. Above is epicotyle. We have already done this. Is it clear? Above is epicotyle and below is hypocotyle. Am I clear? Now, when germination occurs, hypocotyle, the tip, this portion, the tip of this region grows into it is a radical and it grows into a root system. Basically we can say the portion between the embryonic axis and the radical is hypocotyle, and the portion between the embryonic axis where the embryo is attached to the cotyledon, that axis, and the plumule, which is plumule part, the part which is dividing to form the shoot system, that part, the portion between that is epicotyle, above the cotyledon, below the cotyledon, hypocotyle, epicotyle. Now when germination occurs, both hypocotyle and epicotyle do not elongate together, or do not elongate. When hypocotyle, in some cases hypocotyle elongates, in the other case epicotyle elongates. It depends. There are many dicots in which it is happening. There are many monocots in which it is happening. So what do we see? So epigeal germination, what happens in epigeal germination? It is seen in bean seeds. So here it is. So here in this case what happens? The hypocotyle elongates. The epicotyle doesn't elongate, but the hypocotyle elongates. Is it clear? So how does it happen? Actually later on I'll show you here. Now here what happens? This is suppose the closed seed, and this is, you consider that this is the embryo. Is it all right? And this is the epicotyle, this is the hypocotyle. Now the hypocotyle starts to elongate. The hypocotyle elongates. In this case, in epigeal germination, the hypocotyle elongates. Due to the elongation of hypocotyle, what happens? The cotyledon, see what happens? This is the hypocotyle elongating. It pushes the cotyledon up. Is it all right? Okay. So due to which what happens? The cotyledon comes out. The cotyledon, since the hypocotyle is elongating, all right, the hypocotyle region is attached. This is the cotyledon, and hypocotyle region is attached to the cotyledon. Is it clear? It is growing in both the ways, downwards, upwards. Is it clear? So when it is growing upward, it is pushing the cotyledon above. It pushes the cotyledon above while this portion elongates, the hypocotyle elongates. It pushes the cotyledon above the ground. So what do you see? Suppose this is the bean seed. In bean seed you see this kind of germination. Now the hypocotyle starts to elongate. Is it all right? Here the elongation has started. All right, here the elongation has started, and this elongation, due to this elongation, the cotyledon along with the cotyledon, it is pushing it up. The cotyledon is pushed above. Is it all right? The cotyledon is pushed above. Now what do you see? This is the hypocotyle. This is the hypocotyle, and this is going to form the root system. All right. The hypocotyle is elongating more and more. This is still hypocotyle. Is it clear? It elongates more and more, and the cotyledon comes above the ground. Is it? And you will find a plumule growing into a shoot system. Is it all right? So you will find that this part which is coming out, it is getting turned, twisted like this. Is it clear? It gets crooked because this is the portion which is elongating, and it comes out like this. Is it all right here? And this is what? This is the hypocotyle. This is still the hypocotyle. This is still the hypocotyle. But what has happened here? The seed has come above the ground, and the germination, the formation of shoot system has started now. Is it all right? And after that, what happens here? Now here, this is the hypocotyle, and it is forming the root system. It is forming the root system. The radicle down is forming the root system. Here it has come out. Now the cotyledons open up. Like here, the cotyledons open up like the leaves. That is why we call these as seed leaves. They are not real leaves. They are not developed from the plumule. They are actually the cotyledon. You know, if in bottle gourd, in bean seed, the first leaf is little roundish and it comes above the ground. Is it all right? You will find that they do not have a midrib, they do not have veins, is it? But they look very much like a leaf, a green colored structure. These are the seed leaves, and here in between you will find, after that you will find the real leaf emerging, the actual leaf emerging. This is the actual leaf, and this is the seed leaf. What is seed leaf? It is actually the cotyledon. It is actually the cotyledon which has become flat since it is giving out food to the growing embryo. The fleshy structure now has become less, means it has become more leaf-like, more scaly, it gets more scaly, and finally it withers off. And now this seed leaves perform photosynthesis for the plant till it establishes itself independently. The plant establishes itself independently. Now when the actual leaves come out, they dry and fall off. These two dry and fall off. But actually what is this? These are the cotyledons. Is it clear? When they take the structure of a leaf-like structure, a leaf, then we call it as a seed leaf. Is it all right? So this is what is epigeal germination. What are we finding in epigeal germination? It is epigeal because the germination, the seed is coming above the ground. It is epigeal. Is it clear? But what is elongating? Hypocotyle is elongating. Since hypocotyle is elongating, it is pushing, it is below the cotyledon. Is it clear? So when it is elongating, it is pushing the cotyledon, the seed, above the ground. So this kind of germination is known as epigeal germination. Okay, now let us see the hypogeal germination. Let us discuss the same thing about in hypogeal germination. Now what happens in this case? What did I say? Both epicotyle and hypocotyle do not elongate together. Is it clear? Either the hypocotyle is elongating or the epicotyle is elongating. In this case, we have seen the hypocotyle elongates. That is why the seed comes above the ground. Is it clear? And in this case, we will see the epicotyle elongates. The epicotyle elongates. Is it clear? Now you see what happens. This is the example here. This is the example is bean seed. Here the example is pea, common pea. Is it all right? Now in this case what happens here? This is the ground part, I'll explain later. Now what happens, this is the pea seed. Okay, let us consider, I'm showing one part of the cotyledon only, and here is the embryo. Is it all right? Here is the embryo. Is it all right? This is the embryonic axis. Above it, above this is the plumule, this is the radical, epicotyle, hypocotyle. Is it clear? In this case, the epicotyle elongates more. Is it clear? In this case, the epicotyle elongates, the hypocotyle doesn't elongate. Is it all right? So here what is happening, the epicotyle start to elongate. Is it all right? Okay, but here the hypocotyle doesn't elongate, but the radical starts to grow. Radical is present at the tip. Is it clear? Radical start to grow and form the root system. Is it clear? It's not that root system is not forming. Radicals start to grow and form the root system. Is it all right? But here what is happening? The portion above the cotyledon is elongating. So it is not pushing the cotyledon up. It remains under the ground. It remains under the ground. Is it clear? So here in this case, what do you see? Here, so let us show it again. Here this is the pea seed. Pea seed, is it all right? Always the radical comes out first here. Okay, now the epicotyle, the hypocotyle doesn't elongate, but root system has started forming. Root system is not formed by hypocotyle, it is formed by the radical. Is it all right? And here you find the epicotyle elongating. Epicotyle elongating, is it clear? And this is the plumule. Since the portion above the embryonic axis where it is attached to the cotyledon, this portion is elongating. It doesn't, this portion is elongating up. This doesn't pushes the seed above the ground. Is it clear? So what do you see? Here it is. Here the hypocotyle has not elongated. This is the hypocotyle, but the radical is forming the root system. Radical is forming the root system, and epicotyle has grown up, and the plumule has started forming the shoot system. So where are the cotyledons present? They are present below the ground. So that is why, what do we call this kind of germination as? We call this kind of germination as hypogea germination. Hypo, below, geal, earth, ground, soil. Is it all right? The germination. And why is it happening? Because in this case the epicotyle is elongating, not the hypocotyle. See, it is just the opposite. Hypogea germination, epicotyle elongates. Epigeal germination, hypocotyle elongates. Is it clear? Example is pea.